What if a father's refusal to give up brought his son back from the brink of death? Or a child's defiance in a segregated library led him to NASA? Imagine a soldier, engulfed in flames, saving his crew against all odds. These aren't just stories, they're real events that redefine human strength. Dive into 3 breathtaking tales: George Pickering III's miraculous recovery, Ronald McNair's rise to astronaut, and Henry Irwin's heroic World War II sacrifice. Get ready to be inspired by the power of hope and resilience. George Pickering III's miraculous recovery. George Pickering III was living what seemed like an ordinary life in the heart of Texas. But everything changed dramatically in January 2015, when this 27-year-old man suffered a massive stroke. The kind of stroke that would, for most people, spell the end. He was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support, his chances of recovery seeming bleak. Doctors quickly delivered the devastating news to his family. George had suffered extensive brain damage, and they declared him brain dead. The recommendation was clear: his family should consider pulling the plug. But George's father, Tom Pickering, refused to give up. He wasn't ready to let go of his son just yet. The decision to disconnect his son from life support was a heavy one for the family. George's mother and brother had already consented to the doctor's recommendations, unable to see a way forward. But Tom, overcome with grief yet filled with an indomitable resolve, stormed into the hospital room, adamant that his son deserved more time. His faith in his son's strength outweighed the cold, clinical assessments of the doctors. The situation soon escalated. Tom wasn't a man to simply accept what he was told. Overcome with a sense of powerlessness but still unwilling to surrender to despair, he locked himself in the room with George and refused to let anyone remove him from life support. There, in the silence of the sterile hospital room, Tom clutched his son's hand. The machines beeped steadily, a mechanical reminder of the hopelessness they had been told to accept. Tom, however, would not accept that. He sat by his son's side, talking to him softly, asking him to hold on, praying desperately for just a sign. Time seemed to stretch as he waited. The clock on the wall ticked forward, but for Tom, each second felt like an eternity. How could he just let go when he still felt his son was fighting to stay alive? There was no rational reason to keep pushing forward, but Tom's heart was heavy with a father's love and the belief that miracles, though rare, do happen when you least expect them. Then, as if in direct answer to his silent prayer, George moved. It wasn't much, just the slightest squeeze of his father's hand. But for Tom, it was everything. His son had given him a sign. There was life, not just a flicker of hope, but real life that had been hidden under the blanket of medical certainty. A wave of emotion crashed over Tom, both overwhelming and relieving at the same time. How could this be happening? His son, who had been declared brain dead, had shown him a sign that all was not lost. This tiny act, so simple yet so profound, changed everything. It was the spark Tom had been praying for, and in that moment, he knew there was still hope. In the days that followed, George's condition began to improve in ways that defied medical expectations. The doctors, who had once been so certain of the grim prognosis, watched in awe as George's signs of life became more pronounced. First, there were small movements in his fingers, then a gradual return of consciousness. Doctors who had written off George as a lost cause now began to reconsider, unsure how to explain the extraordinary turn of events. George had gone from being brain dead to being responsive. The recovery wasn't instantaneous, there were still challenges to face, but it was undeniable that George was making a comeback. His miraculous recovery baffled even the most experienced medical professionals. What happened next would go on to prove that miracles, while rare, do occur. George eventually woke from a deep coma, and though it took time, he regained his strength and began speaking again. His physical and mental recovery was remarkable, and he would later be told that had his father not stepped in when he did, George would have died. But Tom's intervention didn't come without consequences. His desperate actions had led to legal trouble. The act of holding the doctors at gunpoint to keep them from removing George from life support was not just an emotional decision, but one that resulted in criminal charges. Tom was sentenced to 10 months in prison for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. While some may have seen this as a severe punishment, Tom felt differently. He didn't regret a single moment of his fight for his son's life. In his eyes, what he had done was worth it, because his son was alive. George's miraculous recovery was priceless. George and his family didn't care about the prison sentence. What they had gained was immeasurable, a second chance at life, something that had seemed impossible just days before. This story of George Pickering III is one of raw emotion, a testament to the power of hope, faith, and a father's love. It reminds us that the strength of the human spirit can, at times, surpass what we believe to be possible. Miracles, as we've seen here, don't always come when we expect them. Sometimes, they come in the form of a small squeeze of a hand, a flicker of hope in a sea of darkness. What George's father proved is that sometimes, even in the most hopeless of situations, a fight for life is worth every ounce of energy. In a world that so often feels governed by cold facts and harsh realities, this story is a stark reminder that hope and love are forces capable of overcoming even the most insurmountable odds. As we move forward, this story serves as a powerful reminder that there's always hope, no matter how grim the circumstances may seem. The battle is not over until the last breath has been taken, and even then, there might still be one more chance. The miraculous recovery of George Pickering III is just the beginning of what is sure to be an inspiring journey. There are more tales of perseverance and strength to come, and you won't want to miss the next one. Ronald McNair's determination to become an astronaut. Ronald McNair's story begins in a small, segregated town in South Carolina, a place where racial lines were firmly drawn, and a young boy's dreams were often confined by the walls of his environment. But for Ronald, the sky was never the limit. He had his eyes on the stars. As a child, he was captivated by the mysteries of space, and his dream was clear: he would one day become an astronaut. However, for an African American boy growing up in the 1950s, this dream seemed like a distant fantasy, one that could easily be crushed by the racial segregation that permeated every aspect of life. In 1959, when Ronald was just 9 years old, he encountered an obstacle that many children his age would have found insurmountable. Living in a time when public spaces were still segregated, Ronald, eager to learn more about space and science, walked into the local library, a library that, by law, was reserved exclusively for white patrons. He walked with purpose, determined to check out books on NASA and space exploration. He didn't understand why the world around him was divided in such an arbitrary way, but he wasn't about to let something as trivial as segregation stand in the way of his dream. When Ronald approached the counter to check out his books, the librarian, a white woman, stared at him with a cold, disapproving gaze. She informed him that he was not allowed to check out books there, making it clear that he had no place in this space. But rather than being discouraged by her words, Ronald did something that would define his character for years to come. He climbed up onto the counter, looked the librarian in the eye, and told her he would wait for the police. The librarian, taken aback by his defiance, was momentarily stunned but quickly ran to call the authorities. However, the police officers who arrived were not hostile. Instead, they saw the absurdity of the situation. They told the librarian to let Ronald check out the books, and they walked away, leaving the librarian with no choice but to begrudgingly allow Ronald to take what he needed. This moment, a defiant act of resistance against the unjust system of segregation, marked the beginning of Ronald McNair's extraordinary journey. He didn't just walk away with the books that day, he walked away with a deeper understanding of the power of persistence and the importance of standing up for what's right, no matter the odds. The young boy who had been denied access to knowledge would go on to gain access to the stars themselves. Ronald's journey from that moment in the library to becoming one of NASA's most accomplished astronauts is a testament to the power of perseverance in the pursuit of dreams, regardless of the barriers in place. After facing numerous challenges and enduring the weight of systemic racism, he earned a PhD in physics from the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. His brilliance and determination caught the attention of NASA, and in 1984, he made history as the second African American to fly in space. But Ronald McNair's story was tragically cut short. In 1986, he was aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger during its final, fateful flight. 73 seconds after takeoff, the shuttle exploded, claiming the lives of all 7 crew members, including Ronald. His death was a devastating loss to the world, but his legacy lived on, not only in the countless lives he inspired but also in the way he made us all rethink what was possible. Ronald's story didn't end in tragedy, though. In the wake of the Challenger disaster, the library that had once turned him away in his youth renamed itself the Ronald McNair Life History Center in his honor. This act of recognition was more than just a symbolic gesture, it was a testament to the power of one individual to challenge the system and create change, even after death. Ronald McNair's legacy is one of defiance, brilliance, and hope. He didn't just dream of the stars, he reached them, defying not just the laws of gravity but the societal laws that sought to hold him down. His story is a reminder to us all that with enough determination, even the most seemingly impossible dreams can become reality. It's a testament to the transformative power of perseverance, not just for one individual, but for the generations that will follow in his footsteps. From the struggles he faced as a child to his triumphs as a scientist and astronaut, Ronald McNair's life was a constant battle against the odds. And yet, through it all, he remained steadfast in his commitment to his dream. It's a story that continues to inspire, reminding us that the impossible is only a matter of perspective. As we look to the future, we are reminded that no barrier is too great, no dream too far-reaching, and no person too small to change the world. Ronald's legacy, however, is not just defined by his achievements. It is defined by his character, by his ability to see past the limitations others placed upon him and to envision a future that was entirely his own. It is in the face of adversity, in the moments when the world seems determined to stop us, that we find our true strength. Ronald McNair's life and his journey through and beyond racial segregation are a powerful reminder that the future is shaped not by the barriers we face, but by the courage to overcome them. And in that, his legacy will continue to soar for generations to come. Henry Irwin's heroic survival during World War II. Henry Irwin's story is one that epitomizes courage, selflessness, and an unwavering commitment to duty, even in the most unimaginable circumstances. During World War II, as a young radio operator aboard a B-29 bomber, Irwin found himself in a life-or-death situation that would forever alter the course of his life and the lives of those around him. In the midst of a bombing mission over Japan, disaster struck. A smoke bomb, one of the crucial components used to help the bomber navigate through smoke screens, malfunctioned and exploded. The blast immediately engulfed Irwin in flames, causing severe burns to his face, neck, and arms. The searing pain was indescribable, but what was even more pressing than his injuries was the immediate danger the rest of the crew faced. The smoke bomb had caught fire, and if not contained, it would not only destroy the plane but also cost the lives of his fellow soldiers. With his body racked with pain and his life hanging by a thread, Irwin's first instinct was not to save himself, but to save the plane and his comrades. In a split-second decision that would forever define his legacy, he disregarded his own agony and bravely acted. He made his way to the bomb bay, where the fire was threatening to spread, and, despite being unable to see clearly due to the burns on his face, he fought through the smoke and flames to remove the malfunctioning bomb from the plane. It was a feat that many would have deemed impossible, yet Irwin's resolve and selflessness propelled him forward. Despite the intensity of the pain from the burns, which would later require numerous surgeries and years of recovery, Irwin's actions were nothing short of heroic. He not only saved his crew, but he also ensured the survival of the mission, which otherwise could have ended in catastrophe. His determination and sheer willpower allowed the bomber to safely return to base, and it is said that Irwin was able to continue operating in the military for a time, despite his injuries. When the full extent of his heroism became known, the United States Army awarded Irwin the Medal of Honor, the highest military distinction for bravery in combat. However, the true reward for Irwin was not the medal itself, but the knowledge that his actions had saved lives. The recognition was a testament to his selflessness, but Irwin, the humble hero, would likely have traded it all for one simple thing: to have his life before the accident restored. The recovery process was long and grueling. Irwin endured over 30 surgeries to treat his burns, and even after the physical wounds began to heal, the psychological scars remained. Yet through it all, he remained a symbol of resilience. His internal strength, the strength to keep pushing forward despite overwhelming adversity, was what allowed him to survive. His courage wasn't just about fighting fires or bullets, it was about fighting to live, to move forward, and to give his best to the world around him, no matter the cost. Irwin later became an advocate for burn victims, working to raise awareness and funds for those who had suffered similar fates. His journey through physical and emotional pain gave him a unique perspective on the human capacity to overcome suffering, and he dedicated himself to helping others who were navigating the same struggles he had faced. Irwin's life was marked not just by the war heroism for which he is most famous, but also by the quiet dignity with which he handled his recovery. He passed away in 2002 at the age of 80, but his legacy lives on as a reminder that true heroism lies not in one single act of bravery, but in the ability to rise again, time and time again, in the face of unimaginable odds. His story continues to inspire generations, not just of soldiers, but of all people who are willing to put others before themselves, even in their darkest moments. The heroism of Henry Irwin is a reminder that, even in the most dangerous and painful moments of life, we can choose to act with courage. His story challenges us to look beyond our own suffering, to take responsibility for the well-being of those around us, and to rise above fear in order to do what is right. As we reflect on his incredible bravery, it becomes clear that stories like his are not just a testament to the past, but also a call to action for the future. In a world that often seems to be riddled with chaos and uncertainty, we can draw strength from the lives of those who have faced adversity and emerged not just unbroken, but stronger than ever before. Henry Irwin's life is proof that the human spirit, when pushed to its limits, can do extraordinary things, and that even in the face of unimaginable pain, we are capable of incredible acts of courage and heroism. And as we move forward, reflecting on his legacy, we find that his story isn't just about survival in the face of war, but about the survival of the human spirit in every aspect of life. There are more stories of incredible resilience and bravery to explore, and you won't want to miss what comes next. In these extraordinary stories, we have explored the powerful themes of hope, perseverance, and heroism, qualities that challenge our perceptions of what is possible. Each of the 3 stories we've discussed offers a unique window into the human spirit, revealing the lengths to which individuals will go to survive, defy the odds, and protect those they love. As we reflect on these real-life events, we are faced with the question of how often life can surpass even the most extraordinary fictional tales. These stories remind us that the line between reality and fiction is often not as clear as we think. In fact, the greatest stories are sometimes the ones that happen to real people, right before our eyes. We are left to ask ourselves, what does it mean to live a life full of purpose and meaning? How can we use the resilience shown by George, Ronald, and Henry to guide our own lives? These stories, filled with determination, hope, and heroism, challenge us to push beyond our limits and to believe in the possibility of the impossible. In a world where the news often feels dominated by negativity, these tales of perseverance, heroism, and human spirit remind us that there is more to life than we sometimes perceive. We can choose to look for the miracles in our everyday lives, to persevere when faced with hardship, and to be heroes in our own stories. It is through such moments that we begin to understand the true power of the human spirit, and how, when we least expect it, miracles are always within our reach.